Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday night panel discussion. My name is Sonja Heinen. I'm the Managing Director of European Film Promotion. And we are very happy that we had the opportunity to organize this important discussion panel together with the FILMFEST Hamburg. Thank you, Jo, for organizing, and thank you, Katrin, for coming with the initial idea to us. As I said, I work for European Film Promotion. For those of you who don't know, it is a network institution. It's an international network institution with 37 member countries involved. By this, we feel very diverse because all European countries are involved in EFP, and the members are all the national film promotion agencies in every single country in Europe. So their job is to promote their national cinema outside of their country. And at us, at European Film Promotion, they come all together to jointly promote the diversity of European cinema. So it's also a kind of diversity what we are treating every day. But what for us is very interesting in this topic is also how you see that the diversity is treated in every single country, and because we find it very important every day, it makes us rich, the diversity. It gives us a real more value in our lives, and I think it is important that all of us take a step to ensure that it can happen, that everybody understands and everybody accepts and everybody helps making it work. So thank you very much, Wieland Speck. First of all, you are the host of our panel this evening. And Wieland is the former director of the Berlinale Panorama. Sorry, Wieland, we were colleagues before. I should know better. Wieland has been heading the Panorama for 25 years, has been working in the Panorama since 35 years. And I would say, in this sense, you are somehow really Mr. Diversity. So I'm very grateful you are here. Please start the discussion and introduce the other guests.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonja. Thank you, Sonja. Well, guten Abend and good evening. Indeed, the history of the Berlinale, of course, is also a focus on diversity from year 51. The year I was born, actually. I'm as old as the Berlinale. And we had oriented ourselves into world cinema. And in 1980, the program of Panorama was founded. And at that point, it was internationally unheard of that a program of that high profile was also focusing on queer cinema. So queer cinema was a major step at that point, leading to feminist cinema, to places where you didn't know any films from yet, cultures that were marginalized. So diversity is in our DNA. But today, diversity has gained a far further reach also for far many more people, also for television, which is a different thing than a film festival, of course. As you know, millions are reached now in the social media. And we have wonderful people with us here tonight. And I will introduce to my left, which is your right. This is Andreas Rothbauer, sales agent for the company Picture Tree. A company that has many different kind of films, and we're going to hear from Andreas later how he approaches the theme. Next to me is Naomi Sesai from London, Channel 4. Channel 4, as you probably all know, a cultural channel, started as a cultural channel, and today comes with an amazing diversity program, I could say. We all read here the papers that the channel is putting out that reaches far beyond what we in Germany at this point have organized as an institution, which of course also leads to the question that England has a far longer history in diversity, also of course to the colonial history. So we're going to hear about that. To my right, to your left, is Beatrice Kruger from Rome, Casting-Direktor, President Unione Italiana Casting. Of course, in casting, we have everything at hand. And why do all these criminal films that we see on television are just always the same gene pool, so to speak, etc. So we can learn from your perspective in Italy how that is developing. And on the far side of your left, we have Lars Becker, who has an incredible record on television, especially television, started as a cinema author and director, and has an amazing record on television work. So television, of course, has the connotation of portraying a population, of portraying also an affirmative kind of approach. And as we all know, films are only interesting when it is about special people. And we also have shows on television, of course, that are not about special people, so everybody can see themselves in it. So this experience, of course, we're going to learn from you how you see that. I will just go back in the list and ask Andreas. In sales, when you have films that portray diversity in terms of a market that you show people in a film that is not represented definitely by the majority of the market you approach, for example, what are your thoughts? You go to festivals and watch lots of films, and then you decide which one you want to take on. Is diversity part of that thinking? Is it also a mission that you have in your head, or is it also a danger that you think this might not be working well?
No, for us, it's as a sales, as a distributor, it is important to have a diverse lineup, a diverse films that are not always aiming at the same clients. As a sales agent, we are not like a distributor, a local distributor that markets their film to a general audience, but we have the bottleneck of going to all the local distributors all around the world, all the TV stations, any kind of business-to-business person that acquires content to exploit it in their various countries. So for us, diversity is very important because obviously television buys different things than a theatrical distributor. So we have to meet a certain set of requirements in order to tackle the most clients we get. So for us, diversity is actually important in the sense that it's not only about a cultural value, but it is about a market, and it is about us being able to survive as a company by displaying diversity and selling diverse content to diverse clients in diverse countries.
Thanks, I just realized we have this microphone in our face, so maybe we don't need it. But this reminds me, of course, that this is for you. So whenever you have an idea, please just raise your hand and you can and you can come in anytime. Because I think when we say diversity, it sounds like we all know what it means, and I'm sure it means many different things. So let me ask Naomi from your experience with Channel 4 and the vast record that you have in trying to not only be politically correct, but go beyond that, because you already had made the experience that political correctness can also be a barrier. Let's hear to that.
So when we talk about diversity and what diversity actually means, it means many things to many people. But in Channel 4, we think of diversity as being 9 protected characteristics. Those people who are underrepresented on television and need to be represented because they do not see themselves on television, so how can they aspire to something bigger, better than themselves as a British identity if they don't see themselves? So we have 9 protected characteristics in terms of diversity, although we know that we are all diverse. We all are on this spectrum. And, but for us in Britain, the term diversity has been mutated over the years. It's become very popular. It's been coined as diversity as in the workplace, in television, on screen, off screen. And so people have different nuances of what that actually means. And therefore, there's a lot of margin to get it wrong. Some people think it's a tick box. Some people think it's just BAME, meaning Black and Asian minority ethnic. Some people think it's just those people who they don't see on TV. So what we try to do is move away from the word diversity and move more into inclusion, where we are saying that the British public are actually, we're all diverse, and so therefore we must include everybody and represent everybody's voices on an equal status.
Inclusion in Italy. What is your take on it, Beatrice? When you work for companies come to you and ask for your advice or your service to cast for a certain story. Do you always have to go along with what the script has in mind, or can you also be more diverse than that?
Well, I think basically, actually, I want to correct something. I'm the founder of the Italian Casting Association, and I was long years the president, but I have nothing to, I'm not anymore. I'm the International Casting Directors Network president. So it's a different, I'm working with every country, not just Italy.
Okay.
And with casting, diversity, we don't have anything in England, in Italy, as you have this wonderful charter that you did for the Channel 4, but then of course the situation is different. We have, there is not much talk about inclusion, or diversity as such, except for male-female. We're still at the male-female thing. But it's all good, and Harvey Weinstein has helped to, get everything worked again. So it's all possible, but it's not so organized yet. As a casting director, and I don't work too much in television, I've always worked more in films and always more in international films or Italian films, like, stuff. The casting comes in when the script is already written, or, may change the script. As a casting director, we want to cast the best actor for the best part. And that means according to the artistic requirements of the director, which is also something very personal, and the budget and productive necessities. So what a casting director can do is say, oh, I really think for this character, maybe you could cast a woman instead of a man. And I've been doing stuff like that, or we all do stuff like that. Or why not, for instance, I did something with Rome, casting for, we would, it was Rome, HBO series Rome, about ancient Rome. And so we had to look for people who had, who were, ability problems, or people who couldn't see. So we went to those people, and we did include small people. So that is possible. That's not the big deal. We actually have, we feel, especially if you do the casting at the beginning of a film, you feel, to get it funded, you deal, or you get to hear from the producer and the director the opinion of the sales agent, and they ask, well, who are you thinking of, and they give lists. And that's something that is difficult because they do not reflect the inclusiveness, So that's really a point I'd like to pick up on a little bit, because that's our reality as casting directors. And then we have to say, well, yeah, okay, we have to prove that there's someone else, even though he's not that famous and doesn't have that quote.
Dangerous field, but in between these two, you have, of course, the director and the writer, the author. Let me ask you, Lars, about your experience.
My experience, casting is a very complex matter, especially concerning casting. I think we, if there are new rules, that's fine, but it's not enough, because the consciousness of the people is in Germany. I can't speak about the British film industry, but in Germany, it's since 20 years nothing changed. There are a lot of role models, but since 20 years, there's in quantity it changed, but not in quality. So we don't have any normal role models in the casting. It's always we have let me say people with migration background have to justify themselves, have to legalize or to legitimate themselves in between the role, but also in their real existence. And this is a coexistence of things, and this is I think something we have to change. We have to change. And my mother is from the first generation of migration in Germany, and I know what it means. But she don't has a Turkish or Arabic background, but a Latin background, and I know what it means in the 60s to be here as a child from a mother who is from Venezuela. So in Germany, nothing changed in this particular. I think the mindset must change in these things. And if we have a minister of interior affairs whose statement is really that migration is the mother of all problems, then it's an alarming sign for the society, and so we also have to put it in a political context. Mm-hmm. We have to do that because if you know the FAO, that's the food agriculture organization from the United Nations, they have a new report published with alarming numbers. 200 million people are on the run. 50 million people are homeless. That's terrific. It's terrific. And so we have to put it in the political context.
So who could do that? Oh, yes, we come back to you. But let me, before we come to you, just 1 second, just add to your remarks. Who could help doing that better than television? If nothing has changed in 20 years in German television, in also female-male roles a little bit, but not really. We had the first gay kiss, that's 30 years ago. It didn't go far beyond that in the meantime. This is devastating. And as we know, of course, also the audience turns away from television more and more, which is not only a German thing. You say it also about England, and we have it in other countries. But nevertheless, this shows how lost you must feel sometimes, because when you come with different ideas, who can block you on television?
I don't know. You have to create a war room every week, 2 hours, like in the favelas in Brazil, 2 hours and 1 hour. The actors, you see a lot of very good actors here. They have to talk to the guys from the business, and then a second hour, they have to discuss together. This is provoking, I know, but we have to go in another way, because the society, I don't have another point. I think we have to radicalize these opinions.
As we sit,
yeah.
Because otherwise no one apparently is doing it. Let's have a question.
Now let me say
sorry.
one point. Okay. I don't want to blame anybody, but if you have a cinema production like Willkommen bei den Hartmanns, this is a very good example for that. What I think, absolutely respect, because it's a very popular and very successful film. This is one thing, but the main character is an African guy, a refugee. So this guy has a name, Diallo. Diallo is a name with origin from Mali or from Senegal, Mauritania. But he acts in a role as a refugee from Nigeria. So for them, it's no problem, but for me, it's a problem. Because this is absolutely a significant sign on a knowledge or a non-knowledge which we have to change in our film industry.
Ignorance is a great theme. We're going to come back to that later. But now, please.
Yeah, I'm an independent filmmaker. I'm working very often in the other European countries, in France, in Belgium, in Great Britain, Ireland. Nearly every country except Poland at the moment, and Italy. It was the only one, and we are a little bit further than that. We started in 1999 from Canada with a movement called Kino Movement, and we are working together in very international teams, and we had to find a mode to work together because it's very difficult, all the languages, and everyone is working in a foreign language then. So. But we used the differences to find a mode to making something together, to find the same language in pictures. And every time I worked in TV here, it was a very small role only. I'm really nice, successful in Great Britain and France. Sometimes I'm recognized on the street, and culture has a very high level there. So they are just German cultural films are hidden, nearly hidden, and you have to search for them. And in France there are special cinemas just for French cultural films, big cinemas, 2,000 places, and they're full of people who like to see French films. So. And this is something we have to get a different view on our culture, and we have to in German TV it's always like there's a boss and it's delegate and everything, and we are working on equally. So there's no one. There's a director. Okay, he's giving advices to the others, but this is what we have to change: the differences in payment and the way to making films. And there are people here in Germany, a lot of people, very good filmmakers who can do this international works and who have experience in that. And every time I worked with the second German television, I brought my experience there to their work, and they changed a lot since then. I've just been small roles or something. So, and our city channels, Tide, is supporting us very much, and Arte is supporting us very much. They're showing our films, and they're helping us. And the opening film is one product of people of our group, so of the festival. So, we can enrich you. So it's possible. Yeah.
So what you're saying is,
until then, I work in Great Britain and France and everywhere else. Yeah.
And it's changing to the better. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, good to hear. Yeah. Can we have? There's another question right here, or remark.
Yeah, I would very much like for you to tell us the 9 characteristics that Channel 4 applies in order to foster the inclusion.
Okay.
Because
so
it's
the 9 characteristics in British diversity spectrum is gender, BAME, B-A-M-E, which is Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic. It's homosexuality, sexual orientation, religious beliefs. We also have social mobility, and we have, let's see, what else am I missing? Maternity. So again, for females who are pregnant, they've got a certain, they are part of, on and off screen, they're a part of a protected characteristic. And who else have I missed out? Disability.
Disability, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask right away, does this also go into the development of scripts? Does this go to the reach to the authors to like develop something with the characters that you're mentioning?
Absolutely. If we're talking about scripted development and inclusion and representation, we have guidelines which are called the Commissioning Diversity Guidelines, and each of the guidelines are very, very clear for independent story writers, script writers, that need, and indies that need to tick a box, meaning that scripted, they have to have a diverse crew, so a director, an AP, a producer, even down to the interns and the runners. They have to be a diverse crew. Content has to have a diverse nature. Gender, they have to have equal balance in gender. So they have to have certain criteria that actually ticks our boxes, otherwise they don't get any money, full stop. Secondly, it's not enough just to have representation. So as we heard with the Diallo name, you cannot cast somebody just for the sake of casting them. They have to be authentic. So authentic portrayal is key right now. So therefore, if you have somebody who is from a particular region that you've casted in a scripted production, you have to go and find that person. If you have somebody who you've scripted as disabled, you cannot have a non-disabled person playing a disabled part. That is just not on. We will not actually commission it. So yes, the actual scripted part and the storyline, all our indies have to think of diversity from the onset. It doesn't actually start when it's been scripted. You have to actually start thinking about it before you can actually get the ticks on our guidelines.
And is there a
That's amazing.
And from a workflow point of view within the channel, is that evaluated by a certain commission that is set aside within the channel to approve those scripts? Or
Yes,
how does that
so
work?
we have the Creative Diversity department, which is what I work in, and all the information, we have lots of insights, so we have audience insights. We ask our audience what do they see, what they don't see in terms of representation or authentic portrayal. And then we feed that into our guidelines, and we're constantly changing. And let me get this very clear. Channel 4 hasn't got it right, and hasn't got it right all the time. But when we do get it right, it's practically brilliant. You know, we see it, and everyone feels really, really, enthused and happy. When we get it wrong, the audience will tell us about it, and we will get smacked. So we are always striving, we're always looking at the audience, we're always looking at our insights, we're always looking at statistics, we're always listening to what the voices are saying to us. And it changes, society changes, environment changes, immigration changes, so we have to be on our toes all the time. So yes, we most definitely look at our scripts, and we have a remit, but that remit isn't just stuck there. It's also evolving because our society evolves all the time.
And maybe because we're in Germany, it would be interesting for us to maybe hear, is that something where Channel 4 is unique in its approach, or is that also tackled in a similar fashion, maybe by funding institution like the BFI that is funding
I think all
theatrical
the
film?
creative diversity, the creative industries are looking at the 360 Charter is particular to Channel 4. That's what we do, and that's what we decided to actually remit for the next few years, and it changes every single year. BFI have their own diversity charter, BBC have its own. Ofcom, who regulates all of us, say we have to hit this certain mark, and so we all do it in different ways.
But they all have a charter, BFI or the central funding bodies. I don't even know, is that in Germany also in a similar fashion, that a funding institution has that kind of requirement? Broadcasters, the
I
same?
don't think so.
No, but yes,
Charter, just to let me say that Charter means eine Satzung. Es gibt eine Satzung, die das verlangt, that asks for all these points. I don't think we have that. Is there anyone from television who knows more? No.
Because we're complaining a lot about television in Germany and who it is portraying, and especially public television, right? And for who are they doing it? for what target groups, or what age groups, because that's what it's about, right? And then it seems to me that this would be an interesting concept also to start thinking of applying in Germany
country.
in order to have a and in Italy and any other country.
Well, yeah, amazing. But there's a question.
Yeah, hello, I'm Dina.
Hi.
First of all, thank you for being here and discussing that with us. Funny you should say that, because my question is, obviously in Great Britain you have a kind of procedure for diversity. What about Germany? Because I know that we don't have something like that, obviously, because usually you see like the same 20 actors in all the big movies. So we've talked a lot about the issues, right? So where's the problem solving? So what are your ideas for solving that problem, that diversity problem we obviously have in Germany?
Well, Naomi mentioned one thing which made me really wake up. You said you're going to listen to the audience, and the audience will tell you when you fucked up.
Yeah, for sure.
That is, of course, amazing. How did you get that audience?
You know, I think we have a very open line into Ofcom, into each of the broadcasters, where they can go in and they can complain. For example, we had Genderquake, which was a season of sexual orientation. So we were looking at transgendered community and how they actually live in the life of Britain. We got it wrong. We put our hands up and we got it wrong. And the reason why we got it wrong is because all the big, massive transgender media companies came and told us very, very, very clearly and loudly, put it on Twitter, they put it on YouTube, they told us that Channel 4 got it wrong. So what we did is that we invited them into Channel 4 to talk to our commissioning commissioners and to the commissioning remit people in order to ask them, how do we get it right? What do we need to do? So I've just gone through a training with Transmedia, with Stonewall. We talked about language. We talked about what you can and can't say in that area. We talked about perception. We talked about authenticity. We talked about a whole lot of things which informs us so that we can inform the commissioners, so that we can inform the script writers, the indies, and everything else. So our audience is our business. If we don't have an audience, we don't have a business. And so the audience rule it in a way. They don't actually dictate what we put out there, but they work in partnership with us so that we get it right. And hopefully we will get it right more times than not. But if we don't, we put our hands up to it and we say, fine, fair enough, let's learn.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Well, in this respect, this kind of television seems to be closer to what we do in film festivals, and we're right here at the Hamburg Film Festival. This is where we show films to an audience, and we develop the audience as festival makers, but the festival audience also develops what we show. So there's that kind of communication between the people that put up a program and those who consume it or take part in it even. But how can we get that for television? That's a big question, but I'm going to ask you again, but we have another question back there. Until the microphone, oh no, the microphone is there.
Hi, thank you for being here. I'm interested in your opinion about public recognition in the form of awards for diverse casting or people with a disability especially. Because what you said earlier reminded me of Eddie Redmayne in The Theory of Everything, who obviously won an Academy Award for playing the most famous disabled person as a non-disabled person. When do you think will disabled people in such a role be cast and maybe win an award for it?
I'm hoping that it will be sooner rather than later. This year, Channel 4 are doubling its disabled remit. So instead of having 6.9, or is it 5.9 off-screen and on-screen disabled content creators, we're actually doubling that figure. So that it's important to us that our off-screen talent who are disabled are able to contribute to the scripting of the, whether it's scripted or non-scripted, but scripting of content where we will also be able to cast on-screen talent to those scripts. This year, what we're doing is that we're putting quite a lot of money behind on-screen talent, and specifically for women with expert voices, especially from the BAME and disabled categories. So we will see that quite quickly in Channel 4. We're actually working with a lot of disabled organizations, and we're creating a writer's room and we don't want to make it disabled writer's room. It's a writer's room that everybody can be part of. It just so happens there are more disabled people than there were ever before. And so therefore, that representation, as you were talking about, it's in the mindset, that unconscious bias. That unconscious bias has to be tackled, because it's very, very easy to start thinking that, okay, we've just put 2 disabled people in the show, and now they've won a BAFTA, that's it, we've done our job. No, we haven't. We've done our job when my job has finished, when I don't have to cast any more people who are disabled, because it will just happen automatically when people see other people as normal human beings rather than the other.
Thank you very much.
Lars, the question is, how can you imagine how you could go about that? You probably have no experience whatsoever that we're hearing here in German television, or maybe correct me, maybe I'm wrong, but I never heard that kind of approach.
No, I think there is a discussion about it, about guidelines. But let me ask you one more question. Does your guideline also mean that a white director can't shoot a black script?
No, not at all. Our guidelines do not exclude anyone. If you've got the experience and you've got the gravitas and you are a white director, of course, you're going to be, it's a business at the end of the day. If your name's attached to that particular program, that's absolutely fine. It's on meritocracy at the end of the day. So no, the guidelines do not exclude, and we're very, very conscious that it can exclude, which it had done with working class white males. Social mobility is something that's very, very, very prevalent in the dialogue right now. And that's the group that needs to be brought into the diversity discussion.
Yeah, I'm not asking for myself, but the 50-50% rules, which in television is at the moment is a discussion about a gender question, how many female actors, how many male.
Yeah, we do have that.
And those things. And,
yeah.
And in some discussions, we had a little bit of discrimination, a new discrimination, because it's complicated to follow those guidelines if people don't exist in the way it is.
We find that people do exist. There are amazing female directors who have not, for the last 30 years, as you were saying, are still not at the level that they should be. So, and we ask ourselves why? Why is this, even though there's this diversity discussion? So the guidelines are there in order to bring those voices up. It's not to say you can't do it because you're white and male and middle class. It's looking at them saying you can do it and we'll give you the tools to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's a different way of looking at the issue. Instead of saying, let's cull all the white males who are middle class up there, that's not the way to do it, because what you're doing is excluding. It's actually concentrating on the underrepresented and saying you can do it, let's bring you up, let's give you more support, let's fund you.
Can I say something?
Yes, of course.
I just want to add something. I really, really think this is so incredibly important that you do that as the channel, this Channel 4, because this is exactly, casting is something very intimate, right? It's something, in reality, it's a very intimate kind of job. And the fact that before you go to the casting, when you're working on the awareness, it's like basic thing. It's like, we were talking about before, we're in Europe. Hey, we have to learn that there's a difference between a guy from Mali and a guy from Nigeria, right?
Right.
So this is, or like the Americans who they see us as diversity in Europe, they think, oh, let's cast a Turkish guy without knowing what that means for us, right? So I think it's really, really important that it starts there. And if you have support of a channel, that gives you strength and to work in this, to go ahead with it. So I think it's so simple. I think it's such a great model. I think we should do it in every single European country.
Yeah.
Really, every single production.
No, I mean, especially in Germany as well, given the most powerful institutions in the creation of films is the broadcasting system, in Germany even more than in probably a lot of other countries, and it's the public funding bodies.
The film funds.
And those are the ones that basically together form a good, close to 100% of what is produced on a national level. So that's where it has to kind of be induced and start. As a sales agent, we always see it coming when it's done practically. Like you, when the script is finished, we see it pretty much. We have the script as well, right? But then we see the finished film is coming, and we see those not really authentic results at the end. And we're also dealing with those films. You mentioned Welcome to Willkommen bei den Harten, Welcome to Germany. We're selling that, and we're also fully aware that even the black actor is not even credited properly on
on the whole promotion.
It goes and from a promotional level, and also in terms of film language and why it works, why it worked also well in Germany and why it also worked in other countries. You can also discuss that and see if that's the proper way of doing it or not, right? Of course, for us, we're a bit the devil in the game because we are selling them, because we are making money with it, because our bottleneck is a distributor, and we know that there is a market for it. So we are a helping hand in that respect. So there we are, the bad cop in a way. We're sustaining, not in such a significant role, but we are part of sustaining that system of proliferating that content into the world, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, if you think about it, we're all in the business to, it's a business at the end of the day. There's a profit line. It's been proven that diversity increases that profit line. But it only increases it if it resonates with the audience. And if you are actually casting, if you think of the business case, that's one thing. But I think as a broadcaster, we have to think much broader, and we have to be a little bit more visionary. How do you want to create social impact? And how, for example, in the next few years, we're going to see Generation Z, who is the most diverse group of people ever in the whole of Europe and, in fact, in the world coming up. They're all mixed of all different kinds. They are going to be the content creators. They are going to be the ones who are going to be putting out a lot of information that has a diverse nature. It's only us a lot here who are in this dialogue right now who are saying, oh, we've got to do this. But it's going to happen. It's going to absolutely happen. So what is the social impact of that? How do we see the world around us evolve because of that fact? And what can we actually create in terms of content, storytelling, to give back to our audience who's going to resonate and who's going to buy your merchandise, who's going to buy your advertising, who's going to do all sorts of things to uphold that business? We're living it. We reflect and we inform and we change society just by what we put out on TV and on film. And we've got to be responsible for that, otherwise we will die.
Yeah.
And given the German
we have to create a lot more role models, normal people role models. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I think there's always that horrible feeling that you've stereotyped somebody.
The prototypes, and stereotypes of actors who have to declare themselves, not sitting between chairs, in the cultural sense, and those things. Just normal role models just be a human being. Every second child in Hamburg is binational. So, I mean, what are we talking about? So,
Well, of course, coming back to you in just a second, microphone. The question, of course, is in Europe, since we have so many countries, so many different languages, we do have the diversity, but we do not succeed, for example, to have a German film play in Italy in the cinemas. Not many.
Not many.
There's some.
So we have an inherent problem in Europe that all our neighbors don't want to see what we do, and we hardly watch what they do, except for the French. Because France, of course, is the film nation per se. But I want to bring this up because at the same time that we're developing slowly, maybe too slow, definitely too slow, but England is further, we are developing the sensitivity and the empathy to a better society. At the same time, society is working on the backlash. So we have at the same time strong movement right now that wants the exact opposite of what we are talking about. So I just want to bring that up because Europe is diverse in itself, and apparently this is also a negative problem. But we have a question right here.
Yeah. Hello. First of all, thank you for bringing up this topic. Well, people have been talking about this for the last 5 years, but I feel like I'm an actress and I feel like nothing has really changed. And it's so sad we don't have any big producers here because they are the one, like all the channels, they are the one who have to change something. And I was told that Black people don't go to the movies. Of course we don't, because we don't see ourselves on the TV and we don't see ourselves on big screens, so that's why we don't go there. And all these people here, they're actors. They don't see themselves. And this is the problem because Hamburg or Germany, it's so colorful. Everything is changed, but it's not like we just don't have the people who write. Like, for example, when somebody writes a script, they don't think about us. They don't think about a woman with a hat wrap who can be a secretary, or a Turkish person who can be a soldier, or a Chinese who is president of whatever. They don't think about that. So I think this is the problem. Who writes the script? They need to think it's diversity. Because I think when the script is done, the casting agent, they just look through. They don't think about me playing a lawyer or him playing a policeman. So this is the problem. We need to find people who write and where we can be seen. And also people who are behind the scenes, like, producers and more writers who are not all white. And this is the problem. Maybe we should bring some guideline in Germany too. I think it's a good thing.
I'm a head of an actors agency called Black Universe Agency. I support people of color because, they don't have it that easy here in Germany. And I just want to thank Lars Becker for supporting a lot of Black artists or Black actors from our agency because he believes in it. And I just want to say thank you again because he really is the beginning of a change. And I know it will come to Germany, to Hamburg, whatever, but we really have to work on it. And he's a main figure. Thank you.
I just want to tranquilize the actors as a casting director, because in the big casting directors organizations like the Casting Society of America, like also the casting director members of the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, there are guidelines and there are statutes that, which we're also doing in the International Casting Directors Network, where every casting director is reminded and informed to always think, if they cannot cast diverse, like if someone's written, she's an American secretary or German, it could also be an African secretary, right? So this is something that that's why I said before, we come in late we can change things if we can, in the little, we can convince the director, hey, what about this? What about, we can do that. But it has to start earlier or at the same time with everybody. But I mean, this is something that we can do, and, people are doing it. So, but, everybody has to be aware. It's
Yeah, but that's a structural. We have various layers of gatekeepers in that process. That's a structural problem. I mean, starting from maybe the writer or the creator and what he has discussed with his producer in terms of what kind of content they want, and maybe that is already the beginning of it, and then it goes through what it is. Is it a made-for-television movie? Then it goes within that broadcasting system, and you meet the famous position of the redacteur in Germany, or something like a commissioning editor in a way. And they also have their requirements, and they have to make it fit to their particular channel, and that's so. There's various layers of gatekeepers and various layers of filters where this portrayal, if there is not such a thing as a charter or a set of guidelines implemented into a system, will never work, because people might be nicely talking about it, and yes, we're going to do that, and we're all very liberal, and it's all going to be good, and blah, blah, blah. But no, it's not, unless you really sit down and pin down a bunch of your rules, and then you stick to it, and you have sort of an independent entity within your channel that monitors that and says, this is achieved, not achieved, and whether then the result is good or bad, and you get, a bad feedback, okay, things go wrong anyway, but at least you have something that is a guideline for those people, or for these layers of people that are in place, be it as in a funding body, be it in a channel, be it within a producers association or within a distributors association, and only then does it become sort of, I think, immanent and relevant and how do you say, selbstverständlich. You can take it for granted, because right now it seems more of a theoretical discussion that is led by us liberally thinking people. So we're thinking in that direction, but we're acting in the other way on a daily basis.
And at the end of the day, the scripts that are more complicated fall off the table.
Exactly.
And we're going to end up with what we see on television. So I think your idea is exactly it, and it corresponds what you're doing at Channel 4. We do need a charter, and this only we can do. The television will not do this in this country. I mean, I hear it from you, I see it when I watch television. You have people that are well-minded, as you say, liberal, like us, but it's not going to happen. So it has to be a demand. We have to demand, and we have to be that audience that you seem to have. I envy you. Because this is the activity that we have to show to television. Television is nervous. They're saturated. They get a lot of money. Everybody makes a lot of money in this business, much more than filmmakers. And they don't want to change because they're well off. So we have to make it a little bit less comfortable for them to just continue forever and ever with the same rules.
No. But then it's the frame condition. Right? That's when you said in the beginning it is a political discussion, because they are setting the frame conditions also for those bodies that are funding and financing films in Germany, in the case of the public broadcasting system, in case of the regional and the national funding bodies as well. All their regulations are set by politics, and they are setting the frame conditions that are then executed. So it has to be a demand from the people, but then it has to be implemented also from the bottom. Yes, everybody does it good every day, but it has to be set from the top. I said, to become sort of a binding charter, a binding thing that we all need to stick to wherever we are.
Well, we have the model of the 50-50, you mentioned it before, that every money that is given to film production has to go 50-50 to male and female, for example. This is, of course, a debate, but at the same time, it's a grassroots event. So this comes directly from the people that are affected by it, and I totally, I mean, I would say 45-45-10, but because when you diminish all the male to 50%, the homosexual males have no chance whatsoever. So you have to be very smart about these things. But it's a process. So everything we do is a process, and we have to be very active in it so we can actually see what we can change the next time we're at the theme again. Anyone here who would like to... Oh, yes, please, right here.
Yes. My name is Irene, and I've been listening to this whole debate, and I'm not from the film industry. I'm just someone who's in the educational field doing intercultural trainings. And you've been talking about the charter and demands. Basically, it is already there. We have something called like an AGG, Allgemeines Gleichstellungsgesetz. What she is referring to is like the UN Charter for Diversity, which is already done. So AGG is something that reflects to all people who work. So if you just use that one and use that as a foundation for your working skills, you already have the guidelines, but you just have to implement it and call out for laws that are already regulated. They just implemented something that is already, which already exists. So you basically can do the same thing.
I think that we've gone a little bit, if I can answer that a little bit further than, because we do have the UK remit set by the government of what the diversity must be on all industries. So if it's banking or if it's insurance or the creative industries, then we have Ofcom, who look after and regulate broadcast. And so therefore they have their own set of remits and their own policies, what they want the British television to actually reflect on British public. And then each one of the broadcasters then goes a little bit further. So the Channel 4 360 Charter is something quite unique to Channel 4. It's something that we have, because we've hit all those main milestones in terms of reflection of our employment, our diversity on and off screen, our representation. We need to go further because we can't just sit knowing that we're losing audiences to YouTube or we're losing audiences to Netflix or to any of these other platforms. We have to work harder. So the 360 Channel 4 Charter is something that is very specific to our audiences in order to address representation in the British public and in British identity. So I think that, if I may, you may have in Germany the guidelines for what is the national kind of like remit for your different diversity in your workforce. But television and film need to take that step further only because it's so powerful, because it beams into your house. Or it goes, you choose to go and see it. Or you turn on Netflix. And it's such a powerful tool to change hearts and minds. It must come from the broadcaster itself in order to make that happen.
Well, plus you apply it amongst yourselves too, right?
Yes, in fact, this whole year when our new CEO came in, she was very adamant that it must be in-house first. We've got to reflect it first in our employment before we can go and tell indies what to do. Otherwise, we're just being hypocritical. We're just
that's a very important point.
Yeah.
You've got to identify with that, right?
Right.
And the good part, it's not an altruistic venture, right? You're doing that because you think there is money to be made. There is an audience to be got. It's a business.
Yeah.
So it's not like just something, okay, let's do it for altruistic reasons as well. That doesn't conflict. There is actually, I think also in Germany, there is television audiences that are untapped because nobody's taking care of them.
Absolutely. That's for sure. But it has to be imperative. That's the point.
Yeah.
They have to follow. And of course, this is not an invention. It's talked about and thought about it for a long time. But nevertheless, these guidelines are on paper and they have to become reality. Otherwise, it's not working.
Right.
I'm really shocked about the racist and not following the human rights charter and our laws in this country. Things you said here. I'm really very sorry for you, and I'm working with very many people international from Haiti or Africa or Asia or something. You will not earn a lot of money, but you're really welcome to work with me, and I will write something. And I really hate you, and I really hate you to say these things, and it's so disgusting. I never would like to have promotion from you ever in my life. So it will be screened on TV, and I earned a prize from the United Nations for Article 27, the free access to culture for everyone. So I'm following this article for my whole life, and it's really disgusting, and I really hate you for being this racist. I'm very sorry for you.
Wait,
And
I don't
it's
get
really. I'm sorry.
I think there's a misunderstanding.
Who's racist?
Huh? Who?
Where is your?
I think it was really a
There's a
misunderstanding.
misunderstanding, I don't know. Anyways, for my kind of work as a festival maker, it is easy to meet all these requirements because I'm not dealing with money whatsoever. I'm just dealing with culture with respect to the European film market in Berlin. So the films that I show in the Berlinale are successful when they have a life after the festival and reach out to the audience or of a niche audience as much as possible. And for that, we need the film market. So we developed the European film market in the 80s as programmers in order to get our films out to the world. So this is what we're doing just by nature in the festival work. But as I said, I don't have to deal with the money side of it. This is why it's very interesting when you say you have to do this now because you get the feedback in order to make money. The channel can live from what it does. You need that feedback. We don't have that because we pay zwangsweise. We are forced to pay to our television channels, and people are getting paid well in the administrational or editorial part, but in the filmmaking side, people are getting paid not well because the television production, and you correct me if I'm wrong, also has adapted the indie style of filmmaking. That means people get paid very little. We don't have money, but the money is of course there. What is your experience in that field?
I don't understand the point.
The point is that the money is there, and that makes the whole machinery very slow and doesn't change. But when you look at the filmmakers that work for television, often enough, they have to work on a very low level of money. Not when you do criminal series, but independent filmmakers. And there it said there is no money.
Well, the budget of TV movies is in the ARD and ZDF is a level since 10, 20 years.
It's on the same level?
It's on the same level, yeah.
And would you say filmmakers that want
less, but it's
like the actor just said that you have a different eye on the production that you do. Do you have the?
No, it's always it's not easy to produce subcultural contents in TV movies, and that's a platform for those beautiful actors. So this is a problem, but I think change will come, you know, because we have to understand that bigger walls don't make better neighbors. that this is an anachronistic position. All societies in Europe have a political confrontation between new nationalists and the liberal. And I think the liberal position will win because this is a pragmatic standpoint.
But
because acqua si trova
Dovunque.
la via.
La libertà non deve morire in mare.
Questa è la verità.
Well, subculture, I think, is an important Stichwort. I say clue.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
because this is where the force of culture comes from. It comes from subcultures, from the direct experience of people in their own specificness. Because, of course, when we tell stories in film, it's never about normal people, it's always about someone special. The interest is in the special, but at the same time, you want to address what you tell to an audience that is not special, because you need as many souls as possible to pay for the ticket. The subcultural part is just a tiny, tiny part in German television these days, and I think this is also one of the problems why the change doesn't really feel like it's happening.
Often screenplay writers do not have the experience of those things. They don't have the experience of a life, of street life. They don't live in communities with diverse cultural, religious.
It's disconnected to a lot. Yeah.
They are not interested in coexistence of people, and this is a critical point. It's a critical mass. We don't have those screenplay writers. So I get a lot of script since my first cinema production, Kanaka Tak, and it's 20 years ago. And in these 20 years, there are a minimum of screenplays who reflect those topics. And this is a problem. They don't know what racism means. They think we have a big demonstration in Hamburg yesterday. I heard about 20,000 people. That's very positive. But the most of them, and also screenplay writers, do not know what racism means. But not on personal reasons, but also intellectual. They don't know the double significance of racism, because we have to renew the term of racism. It is not also a political statement judging racism. It is also it consolidates also the term that we have different races in the world. You know what I mean? That's but we are in a new century, so we have to think about that point.
Yeah, our society thinks it's not racist, but matter of fact, every racist can be
we are
racist.
one man, one blood. You know what I mean?
You wanted to add?
I was just wondering because I mean, there are some examples in Italy with the refugees. It's a very, very big thing there, right? And I mean, we do have people who do documentary films and who do, I mean, there's a film now out since 2 days called La libertà non deve morire in mare, and that's a film on the ship. Markus Imhoff, by the way, did a film like that too. Yes. That was El Dorado. And that was filmed on a Médecins Sans Frontières ship. And all that problem now also of like our Médecins Sans Frontières, they're being attacked. They're being attacked because they're not. I mean, it happened a couple of months ago that they're dealing with the Libyans. I mean, it's ridiculous what's happening there. But still, today, with all the possibilities of being able to shoot films with very little money, I mean, small, people who are into this and they do shoot, and the web series is a little example, right? So that it is easier. It would be easier to do something there, to get active, right, without waiting for big channel, a national TV channel or something. What I'm saying is, it's, I'm like contradicting myself maybe in a way, because I really think you should be ambassador and go to every country and do things like that. But then everybody who understands this, who thinks it's right, you can do something, right? I mean, it's easier to do something now. So, yes, because this awareness is a huge thing. It's a huge thing. And you have a history with Channel 4, which RAI doesn't have in that sense, and Mediaset certainly doesn't have, right? So we, I just want to say we can do little things like that, and
Well,
there are
unfortunately, in Germany, we do have a history like this. We had the Kleines Fernsehspiel, which was like the leader in the world for subcultural force. I mean, the British filmmakers had to come to Germany to make their films. Derek Jarman was basically living in that department. That is lost. It is lost. So, I mean, it basically comes down to me that every one of us has to deal with also the reflection. What diversity means today is different from what it used to be. Same with racism. We have to reflect it new, and we have to act ourselves. And then we also have to act towards the television, because this is where the big money is and where the many images are produced. Even though that young people say, well, why should we address television? I never watch it. That's another danger. The diversity in what is put out as moving image is so high, but maybe it's not very diverse. It just looks diverse. So we have also disguised Vielfalt, diversity that is basically coming down to the same role models and all that. We do have some differences slowly on TV, but I think we are asked to also act and complain to the stations. I think this is one of the little things that we absolutely can do.
No. But I think it's not just, it's not on, I mean, the station is a very important thing. I think also in Germany, to stress that example, it's also the public funding side. I mean, if we look at, we're making in Germany around 250 films per year, plus minus. And about 80% of those that go into a theater, they get a theatrical life because that's still the dogma, funding-wise. A good 80% of those are not making more than 5,000 theatrical tickets. So on the one hand, that's a disaster, frankly, right? One thing is to have a good number of films, which is a chance for diversity if you're making 200 theatrical feature films a year in a country like Germany. But obviously, they don't work. And I don't think that can be true, even though, of course, the theatrical audience is, decreasing to some extent. But everybody's talking about how do we get to that audience and how do we get the young people into the cinema and all of that. There must be, out of those 250 films, there must be a different process where those 250 films are reaching more than they currently do, which is disastrous in terms of theatrical exploitation. Because, like the criticism with television, because they don't speak to the people that are supposed to go to the cinema and watch it, apart from maybe a fraction of them. Because the other statistic is, that I'm always reading publicly, is that German films have a 25% market share, also again plus or minus, but those 25% are made up of 5-6 films. One of them you mentioned, for example, in that year, those films that make 2, 3, 4 million admissions or more. But that's not the reality. The reality is those 246 other films that don't do anything at all, practically. And then I also question, is there a cultural value to them if nobody gets to see them? Where is the cultural value? Where's the impact? Because that's what those films are made for. They're not made for the can or to sit on a shelf or not to be seen by anybody. Then it also, it contradicts the cultural value of this entire production and all the people that are involved and all the money that goes into that, because it's a costly venture at the end of the day.
Yes, I have a question towards that. I'm here. It's me again. Since a long time, I'm asking myself, yes, we have Arte, and a lot of good films are shown at Arte. But I go to a lot of film festivals, and I know I have to see a lot of films, one after another, because I will never have the opportunity to see them again. And I'm asking myself, how come that not all filmmakers are demanding from the public broadcasting station to set up a specific channel just for art film? Because I am convinced a lot of people that are not watching TV anymore will start watching it again, because it's a more radical selection of what we can see so far.
I'm totally with you.
We have Film 4, which does exactly that, because we recognize that there are lots of films out there that you wouldn't normally see on the, the big box office, that just get, played to the left. So we do have Film 4. And just going on your funding, actually, the Creative Diversity Department specifically funds diverse production companies and gives money to diverse content creators, script writers, producers, in order to help them. Because sometimes London is very, very expensive. And we have a lot of creatives who cannot afford to live, let alone think about creating a script that's not going to go anywhere. So we have funding specifically for that, so that these creatives who are from a diverse protected characteristics actually get the chance to build scripts, actually get the chance to be a producer, an AP, so that they actually start to move up in terms of social mobility into those levels where they become commissioning editors themselves. And that then helps us to reflect and represent the society in a much more precise way.
I also, if I give that back, from a German point of view, my feeling is as well that, the way that this comes, we don't have a system whereby we're getting, or active process of getting those groups of society actively into the process of doing that. In the case of Germany, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty elitist thing. If you are making it into a film school, you get into the system, and and then that's the bottleneck. There is not so many people, correct me if I'm wrong, there's not so many people that are actually coming from out of the system in that cinema thing. It's a very elitist thing. Of course, they're all very educated and very liberal, and but that's the point. They go through that bottleneck and they are prepared to grow into that system. And that system is perpetuating. And there is very little openness for people from the side. Maybe here in Hamburg, there was Fatih Akin, is maybe an example also that came a little bit from the side without a film school education, all of that. So one of those few rare positive examples that even internationally sort of also made an impact of here and there. But that's not the rule. That's really the full-on exception, which is another thing, structural problem that prevents us from diversity.
Well, I think it's sorry, just one remark. Sorry, I think it's more diverse than you described. There's those who get their money automatically from the funding systems, and most of these guys get a bigger portion of the money as well. But at the same time, we are looking for the free filmmaker, not necessarily from the school. So our eyes are out for talent of filmmakers who have to make a film and not make a film because it's possible to make it. So, I mean, these differences are apparently a little bit lost in our television world of today, since it was there once. And you might have revived it in a way. So we have to look up to that. And I think we just have to challenge the editorial system wherever we look. I mean, I was working for Arte for a while, and I said, "Why do you show this film?" I mean, I was like introducing films in the evening, and I didn't find the films that I like. It was a problem for me, and I said, "Why do you show an Arte this film? You don't need Arte for showing that movie. That can show anywhere." So we have like a very lazy attitude these days in this country on that level.
Hello, my name is Prince. I'm also a member from Black University Agency, so I'm an actor. So I will just tell you my experience as an actor in Germany. Right now I'm 28. I started acting when I was 14 years old. It was very hard because many casters say, no, because you're too dark. But they didn't say that like that. I think I was 24 when I started really to start the career as an actor. And one of the person was Lars Becker. So Lars gave me the opportunity to make movies. So right now I make the second movie with Lars. So we have Tuesday, our premiere. So we invited. They call it Nachtschicht, as David had told. But the thing is, because of Lars Becker, many people of directors recognize me. They give me the opportunity. So 2018 was a very blessed year for me as an actor. So thank you, Lars.
Well, somehow I would like to actually ask each single person, including us here, what is diversity for you? Because I think this is what diversity is about. It is about the single individual and the experience in life. My experience is that the longing for content and what to see on the screen mirrors directly the experience of the person looking at it. You have these imprint moments in your life, and you have a certain way of discrimination experience, which also varies from person to person. And everyone who's part of a majority is also part of a minority. And I think just the awareness of these different segments of consciousness is something we totally need in everyday life as well as in the media. Anyone for a last question to the wonderful people on the podium? Yes, please go ahead.
Well, I don't know if it's possible, but is there a chance maybe Naomi can come to Germany and and just putting together like the major, the whole big ones, and just, coach them how to bring diversity on German TV? Maybe?
Hell yeah. For sure. For sure.
Why not another country?
Okay, maybe we start German. We start here, and then, yeah, that would be great. Because I think she was just saying we need somebody like you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, seriously, because we don't have any person of color, and of color is not only black. It's Asian, Latina, whatever, in a position where they can also have a voice and talk for the minority. We just don't have it. So I think it'll be great, so we can all work.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diana, and I'm also from this agency. And I think you asked the question, what is diversity for us or to us? And I think diversity is not only about the color of your hair or your skin or your heritage or anything. It's diversity about what I'm thinking about is the solution for TV, because why we all stop watching TV? It's because it's boring. The stories are so boring. They are so sorry, but it's not our stories. Really, I have to say that. And even I'm an actor. I feel so underrepresented because I'm half Asian. I don't see any Asian person in German TV. There's no one I can look up to. I have to create my own. I have to step forward for myself on it. So it's hard for me because there's no other person. But maybe it's a chance also. But I think maybe the person who are the creators of TV shows or movies or series or soaps, maybe they should start thinking in a more diverse way. What is everyday life today for young people? It's not like this, it's, I cannot give examples, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about because, stories are different today on the streets, like you said. But not everybody is interested in to show the real life. But I think this could be the solution if you go outside, look for stories on the street, and write them down, and then you cast in a diverse vision into the people. I think this could work. Yeah.
Well, that's the creative part. That's the creative part, but then the script will fall off the table because there's another script with some nuns in it, and they're going to have an old actor that we know for 500 years, and they're going to get it. So we do have to follow that charter idea and demand that these things have to be followed. I think it's like the 50-50 thing again. If we don't set that, it won't change. It will change when we have it, and then it might not be the best. And then we can change it again. Yeah. But there has to be a start to it, and we don't see it in Germany right now on the television, so we have to demand it. So thanks very much for tonight. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, guys.